My name is Goblirsch. I'm partner at Square One Foods, and I would like to take you on an inside view of an investor on how we choose our investments. And I would like to talk today about how to write the winning pitch deck. And we as an investor believe it's essential because that will be the first touch point that you have with an investor. It's usually sending a pitch deck and approaching an investor, and that's what I would like to talk about today. So let me just briefly introduce who is Square One Foods and what do we do on the market. We are strategic partners and investors for startups in the food and beverage industry. So we're not limited to booze only, but basically we invest in all types of food and beverage companies. What do we offer? We offer up to 250,000 euros in capital. And we offer a lot of additional support to these brands. We have a full-time team of 3 people working with the brands, supporting them, coaching them. We have a great expert network that we open to our investments, and we have great cooperations with retailers and wholesalers all over Europe. And who are we looking for? We're looking for strong, young, dynamic brands in Europe with a great, diverse team that have the ability to really form a strong brand with a European potential. So I first want to start with the usual process that we undertake when we look at an investment. So typically there is some sort of contact with the investment. So it's either getting to know each other on a trade show or at an event, but then usually we would receive a pitch deck, and we receive around 400 to 500 applications every year. So as you can imagine, it's a very highly competitive process, and you really need to stand out in front of an investor. And out of these 400 to 500, at the end, we invest in only 4 to 5 businesses every year. So your first impression really counts, and that's super important. And usually we take around 2 to 3 weeks to evaluate your business proposal and to finally take a decision. So I would like to go through the different elements of a perfect pitch deck. Generally, it should not be too long. Like we would always recommend 10, maximum 15 pages. And you should include all the necessary aspects that are mentioned at the top here. And I will deep dive into each of these aspects on the following slides. And another thing that's super important, please send complete pitch decks. Usually an investor would not look at a pitch deck if it's incomplete. If most of the information is missing, he would probably just delete it. So let me start with the bonus, something we hardly ever receive from startups, but I think you can easily stand out if you include it in your pitch deck, and that's very simple. It's an executive summary. It's basically one page where you tell the investor, who are you? What's so special about you? What is your brand? What's your USP? And very important, what do you want from the investor? How much do you want to raise? At which valuation and when? It's very simple, but many people forget about this. So let me start with the vision of the company. You really want to see in the beginning of a pitch deck, what's the broader vision of this company? Yeah? Describe where do you want to head in the future with your company, where do you see yourself, and it should be very short and powerful. Yeah, I should really see what's your intention with your brand. Second, talk about your product. What is it? What is the USP? How do you produce it? Do you have an external producer? Do you have your own manufacturing facilities? And do you also maybe have some sort of restrictions, maybe some raw material that's difficult to purchase? And also talk us through what you're planning for the future. Yeah? Are you focusing only on one product, or do you have a line extension plan for the future? Then it's also very important to talk about the market potential. That means showing us, are you just addressing a specific market segment, or do you have a very broad target group with your brand? And what I would suggest always is be very specific. Like if you have a gin brand, don't show us the overall market for booze, but talk really about gin. And sometimes we receive, just also have some like bad examples of market data where you don't really get anything out of it as an investor. So if you don't have data, make a very good assumption or we even would say leave it out. Yeah. So that's about the market. Then for us, really key, and I think if you ever talk to investors, everybody will tell you that it's really about the people. And that's not just a phrase, it's really a fact. So we really strongly look at the teams. We want to see professional teams with a great background. We want to see motivated people, because as Dan mentioned, I think along the journey of a startup, you will have a lot of hard times. And we really want to see somebody who is also able to suffer and who is really determined to grow the brand over the long run. And also include a nice picture of your team, because when we receive a pitch deck, we don't get to know you. So the more you include there, the better, basically. Another important fact is the sales and marketing strategy. So tell us, what is your strategy with your brand? Will you start selling your product at bars? Are you planning to enter the retail very soon? Or maybe do you work direct to consumer? Do you sell online? Then also in terms of geography, are you planning to be a local or regional player? Or do you have great ambitions to build your brand already in several countries and also have an export strategy? And when it comes to marketing, also show us what is your strategy. How do you communicate your brand message? How do you reach out to your target group? And more specifically, also tell an investor, do you already have first sales or first listings, like any famous bars that stock your product or any famous retailers that will give the investor a feeling on your market know-how on the one hand, but also how your product is perceived in the market. And in terms of marketing, also show, if you're selling online, show your e-commerce KPIs so that we get a feeling of your traction in the online area, and also show us what are you doing, for example, on social media, how many followers do you have, how big is your engagement already with the brand. And last but not least, also PR, I think, is a very great tool, sometimes a little bit overlooked. Also include all the press mentionings you might have already generated with your brand. And of course, the team is important, the product is important, and the brand. But in the end, we are also investors, so we also want to see numbers. There also, many people ask us, wow, I don't want to send all my numbers to an investor. Maybe I'm sending too much information. And they're also worried what we do with these numbers. And I always tell people, don't worry. I mean, if we receive 400 pitch decks or applications every year, of course, everything is treated super confidential, and we just use that for analysis, but it's absolutely essential that we get numbers. And what would we recommend to send through? If you have any past income statements or balance sheets, that gives like a good overview on what you have achieved already. And what's also important is a look into the future, ideally 2 or 3 years. What are you planning? What are you planning in terms of sales and in terms of costs? And what is the financing need that you have? And then this is something that's really super important. Many people forget the very simple thing to ask us what they really want. Yeah? So it's about the deal. And that should be included in every pitch deck. Actually tell the investor, what do you want? Tell him, okay, I want to raise 1 million and I also need this and that. What is like the non-monetary support that Dan also mentioned before? And also tell us, what are you using your funds for? Are you planning to invest it in a marketing campaign? Are you expanding your team? Do you use it to develop new products? It's very important for us to see what are you planning to do with the funds. And then you should also have an idea of your company valuation, because we also need to know how would you like to structure the deal, how much of your company are you willing to give away, and what's the valuation of the company. And two minor things, but equally important, please do also send an information about your current cap table. That means who is invested in your business. Dan mentioned it could be family and friends, there could be a business angel. But for any investor, it's super important to know which shares are still available and who are your other investors at the moment. And yeah, summing it up, basically one last point is also about the design. I mentioned that when you talk about your vision, about your brand, it's also super important that you also get this feeling in a pitch deck. So make sure that you also create a pitch deck that's in line with your CI, in line with your vision, and also optically appealing to an investor. Okay, thanks for listening. That's it from my side.